This is a CBS News special. Earth Day, a question of survival. For 2 hours, fashionable Fifth Avenue was off limits to automobiles and became a crowded pedestrian mall. Autos were banned on busy 14th Street, too, and thousands of persons jammed into Union Square to attend an Earth Day rally. The square hadn't looked this clean in years, with volunteer help doing the sprucing up. It was a fun day for many school-age youngsters participating in their very first demonstration. There were dozens of exhibits, including this block-long air bubble, to prove how quiet it can be in a busy city. The 2 streets that were blocked off provided islands of quiet. The quality of air improved, but you didn't have to go far to find Manhattan as it really is. Morton Dean, CBS News, New York.
Before the first Earth Day, the stage was set for environmental action by Rachel Carson's 1962 book, Silent Spring. This book sold over 500,000 copies and was the first mainstream connection between the environment, pollution, and how that affects human health. A year later, in 1963, one of the first major environmental policies in the U.S. was introduced, the Clean Air Act, to address rampant smog and air pollution in some of the U.S.'s most populous cities. This act has since been amended to address our contemporary air quality issues. But how did we get to the first Earth Day? Senator Gaylord Nelson created the vision for the very first Earth Day after witnessing the horrible environmental impact of the Santa Barbara oil spill in 1969. Nelson was inspired by the student anti-war protests happening around the country at the time and wanted to infuse this energy with the emerging environmental consciousness developing in the public around air and water pollution. Nelson hired Dennis Hayes, a student activist, to spread the word, leading to the organization of the first Earth Day. This was set on the 22nd between spring break and exams to involve the most students. And they were successful, and mobilized millions of people nationwide to participate, march, and pick up litter. But it wasn't just one day. This massive day led to the formation of the EPA, the Environmental Protection Agency. Then the Clean Water Act was amended to address pollution in 1972. Then came the Endangered Species Act of 73, the Safe Drinking Water Act of 74, the Toxic Substance Control Act of 76, the Superfund Act of 1980, leading to, in 1989, the U.S. signing the Montreal Protocol, an international treaty to address ozone depletion. In 1990, Earth Day went global, with over 141 countries joining in to celebrate. In 2000, Earth Day focused on addressing the growing global warming concerns and the ozone depletion. After 24 years, we fight many of the same issues, focused on environmental justice, fossil fuels, and climate change. These are some of the landmark decisions that Earth Day started, a legacy that lives on far past Senator Nelson's original idea back in the 70s. But where is Dennis Hayes now? He went on to facilitate the creation of the Bullitt Center, the greenest office building in the planet at the time, built in 2011. It's right here in Seattle, a net zero carbon and water building, creating the vision for what our future cities can look like.
In 1970, my parents were both alive. My father was in Denmark completing his master's. In 3 years, he would immigrate to America and have to restart his education to get American degrees. My mother was living in suburban Chicago. In her neighborhood, it was enforced to be white and non-Jewish. Her school had just changed its dress code that year to allow girls to wear pants in school. Prior to that, skirts and dresses were the requirement. Women could not get bank loans, and my grandmother was known as Mrs. Gerald P. Williams, which is my grandfather's name, instead of being known as Brigitta Williams, which is her name.
In 1970, my grandpa lived in Martinez, California, and was a part of the National Painters Union. He got into city and local politics at a very young age, as his father was involved in many union strikes. My grandpa was exactly 25 years old, and my father was not yet born. As more Americans moved west into California during this time, he worked mainly in painting these new houses. Urban sprawl was a big problem, contributing to air pollution, noise, and congestion. The primary factor contributing to urban sprawl was the use of the federal gasoline tax. This tax was used to fund highway construction. Even before 1970, my grandpa remembers as a kid the construction of the highway going through Pleasant Hill to Martinez in California. Thousands of trees were cut down to suburbanize Martinez. The new freeway system fostered increased car ownership, which in turn reduced investment in public transportation. And so this really encouraged migration to suburban areas. Sprawl.
In 1970, my mom and dad weren't born yet. My grandparents were living in Bangalore, India, in a small house with several other family members. They didn't have cell phones, streaming services, or most other forms of technology, except for electricity and a small record player. My grandfather collected film cameras, which he used to fill up his free time. My grandmother worked as a teacher, and my grandfather at a watch factory, where he helped assemble watches.
In 1970, my mom and dad were not born yet. My grandpa was drafted into the Vietnam War, and my grandma was a teacher living in a military housing in Hawaii. They did not have AC nor telephones or television. They sought entertainment through lounging on the beach and scuba diving. My other set of grandparents lived in Germany as teachers. There were no computers or PowerPoints to teach from. There was only paper and pencils. They did not drive cars, but rather traveled by walking and buses.
In 1970, my mom was just 5 years old, living in Tokyo, Japan. She and my aunt grew up before cell phones, but Japan's safety and culture centered around childcare meant their parents could be at ease without constant communication while they grew up walking everywhere, including school and friends' houses. My dad was 6 and living in Oak Bay, British Columbia in Canada. When he and his older siblings wanted new music to listen to, the family would hop in their Volkswagen Beetle and go to the vinyl record store to buy albums from new artists like the Beatles, who had just broken up that year.
In 1970, that was 55 years ago. It's hard to believe, right? Back then, my mom wasn't even born. My grandfather was a young adult working in Colorado. And there were no personal computers, no cell phones, just landlines. And even those didn't have area codes yet. Solar panels, electric vehicles, those weren't even a dream yet. But even amidst these challenges, there were sparks of progress. The Environmental Protection Agency was born, and a growing movement for environmental justice took its first steps. A law can happen in just 1 or 2 generations, and it did. So what if we didn't just look back? What if we jumped forward 25 years? To 2050? What if we had achieved our mission to rapidly advance a sustainable future? What if it actually worked? What would our world look like then?
In the salmon's path. We are on track to return the salmon migration path to its original size this year. Can't wait to see you all at the Salmon Soiree in August.
Hi, my name is Belle Marler, and I am 42 years old. I am a lead investigative journalist for the New York Times. Following my Pulitzer Prize-winning report on completion of high-speed passenger trains connecting major metropolitan areas in the US, Canada, and Mexico, I'm currently working on a comparative analysis report on the speed of adoption of fully autonomous light rail systems in major cities across America.
My name is Shivani Reddy. I'm 39 years old, and I'm an environmental lawyer working for the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, or the EPA. I focus on developing legal frameworks for emerging climate technologies such as carbon capture and solar radiation management. With expertise in environmental law and climate science, I help shape policies that ensure these innovations are implemented safely, ethically, and equitably.
My name is Addie Coyne, and I am 40 years old. I'm a researcher for the EPA, where I study alternative transportation and water quality. I'm currently working on improving and increasing the use of hydrogen-fueled cars to eliminate all transportation sources fueled from fossil fuels.
My name is Alex Takagi Stewart, and I'm 42 years old. I'm an aerospace engineer, and I work for NASA at the Jet Propulsion Laboratory. I'm currently working on the development of electric propulsion for rockets to ensure that humanity's future in planetary travel is sustainable.
And my name is Matthew Fisher, and I'm 43 years old. I'm the Secretary for Energy Innovation at the United States Department of Energy. Right now, in the year 2050, I'm leading the National Grid Transformation Project, the largest public infrastructure initiative since the Interstate Highway System. Right now, we're in the process of finalizing the full conversion of America's power grid to 100% renewable energy. However, I remember 2025 fondly when I was just graduating from high school. That was the year we launched a full-scale carbon commute count initiative within schools across King County.
In 2025, commute count campaign, we sent out a survey to see how much is 12 middle school and high schools per student per day. Now we can compare that number to future years when we collect responses annually. We can also track against our various cities' climate action plans to see how we are moving towards our goals and plan school-specific campaigns. In 2050, we collect over 100 schools' responses annually. On average, each school has decreased their carbon emissions by 50% through campaigns that we have planned. We have also, through one of these campaigns, we have our parking lot reform.
Yes. So just, I think a few months ago, we started asking questions of high schools in Washington on info about their parking lot fees. And the questions that we asked included contacts for school parking fees, the parking fee, the amount per spot, number of spots, annual total revenue, parking violation ticket amounts, what the revenue is used for, how is this decided, designated carpool spots, parking allocation challenges, and opportunities that could be brought up. So with this, we found out that there was very little incentivization for carpooling. And with this baseline data in hand and committing ourselves to help cities meet greenhouse gas reduction goals, we want to hit challenging targets in 2030 and 2050. So we have made the following recommendations here in this great year of 2050, which were adopted in 2026. So number one, parking permit fees for single occupancy vehicles were doubled. Number two, parking permit fees for carpools were cut in half. Number three, we ensured that at least 25% of parking spaces were reserved for carpools. And last but not least, as the need for parking spaces were reduced, we tore up asphalt to make room for school gardens, which became a learning lab for sustainable food systems in these Washington high schools.
And remember Bus Bingo in 2025? Bus Bingo was a fun challenge where people completed tasks like writing a new route, planning a trip, or taking the bus to an event. It got more people to use public transit and feel confident doing it. That small game helped change habits. Now in 2050, buses are everywhere, way cooler and way more used. Cars are out. We don't need giant parking lots anymore. We have Rapid Ride all over, on-demand Metroflex shuttles, driverless vans, more bus stops and routes, and easy connections to light rail and bike paths, all because we made transit fun and familiar.
All right, and now we're going to jump into Electrify My City. So this is an initiative that Sustainability Ambassadors puts on to encourage the electrification of things within schools, within communities. This can look like a variety of things. It can look like solar panels, heat pumps, and more. So we're going to hear a couple of videos about heat pumps.
In the world of home heating, one unsung hero has quietly revolutionized the way we stay comfortable. We are on the journey to search for the remarkable heat pump. Could it be here? No. Maybe here? No. Wait, what is that? Behold, the elusive heat pump in its natural habitat, converting ambient air into cozy warmth. While it may seem unassuming, the heat pump is a marvel of modern engineering. Capable of cooling and heating with unparalleled efficiency, it is a champion of sustainability. So, next time you adjust your thermostat, remember the silent hero working tirelessly behind the scenes.
There we are. Okay, so in 2025, 90% of homes in the King County region have used natural gas heating for their homes. And residential buildings, energy use accounts for nearly half of all city emissions. So, Sustainability Ambassadors has partnered with Energy Smart Eastside, and several cities have also partnered with Energy Smart Eastside to launch a huge heat pump initiative. And so it's encouraging different households and different communities to install heat pumps to be able to transition from using natural gas and using electricity instead, which is the greener option. Next up, we'll hear a video on heat pump information.
Heat pumps could be the climate solution we need. So let me break it down for you quick and simple. A heat pump can lower a home's energy use by 52%. For example, in the city of Kirkland, 24% of our greenhouse gas emissions comes from home energy use. That equates to about 23 million metric tons of CO2 every single year being polluted into our environment.
That's about 4,600,000 elephants.
So all these homes I'm walking by, if even 20 of them decided to switch to a heat pump instead of their regular gas furnace, we would save between 80 to 200 metric tons of CO2 every single year. That's a huge amount. We've been experiencing so much wacky weather with the bomb cyclone, and our summers getting so hot. This is why reducing our emissions matters so much. It's to protect our future. So come join me and switch to a heat pump now.
Perfect. All right. So
heat pumps
in 2050, what our outlook is 90% of the homes in our region have a heat pump. The last gas furnace was replaced in 2045, and the last gas stove was replaced in 2049. And this succeeded in cutting our city's energy emissions nearly in half, which is huge for carbon emissions. So renewables at home. All new residential housing developments are required to have 80% south-sloping rooftops uninterrupted by gables or dormers for solar panels. And new homes are now all over supported by solar power, either self-generated or from community solar projects. So how did we do it? So getting down to our energy goals of 95% carbon emission reduction compared to a 2007 baseline, this is what it looks like. So this is a wedge analysis, and personally for me, I love the wedge analysis because I'm a super visual person. So on the left, on the y-axis, we have our millions of metric tons of CO2, which is a lot. And on the x-axis, we have our timeline. So we have us here in 2025, and then we have dates going on until 2050. So just getting ourselves oriented, the black dotted line at the top is basically what would happen if no future action was taken, which would be really bad. But right now, luckily in Washington, our state is very proactive about going green and having different policies in place to make this happen. So right now, based on the forecasted policies and their goals, the pink line is where we are going to be landing at. But the thing that we really concerned about at Sustainability Ambassadors is that gap right between that pink line and the bottom red line, which is our ultimate goal. And we want to use different impact projects and impact campaigns to be able to fill that gap, whether that looks like leading a carbon commute count initiative, a Go Solar initiative, a heat pump initiative, whatever that looks like, filling that gap for carbon emissions. So here's us in 2025. We're here. And in 2035, this is the impact of our projects, is that they've grown exponentially. They've cascaded around all of Washington, not just King County. And we continue to grow until 2050. We're able to successfully knock out a majority of those emissions with buildings, with energy, with transportation, all across the board. We're able to cascade that impact exponentially. So what we did, we knocked out that chunk. We can just take that chunk right out of there. And now we have that emissions off of our chart and out of our planet. On Earth Day, that is incredibly important to reflect on. So what policy did? Policy, things like the Washington Energy Code, which means that new buildings must be ultra efficient, saving energy from day one. The Washington Clean Building Act. So all big buildings of ranging sizes have to be at a certain threshold based on their square footage and their energy use. The federal vehicle regulation makes that all vehicles have to have a certain threshold of clean driving in terms of their fuel efficiency. The Washington Clean Fuel Standards is that transportation fuels must get 20% cleaner by 2038. And the internal combustion ban actually bans the use, essentially, of gas vehicles by 2035. And the hydrofluorocarbon policies is another form of a really nasty form of carbon that is going to be completely removed from Washington State usage. So we can knock those all off of the board. And we thank our Washington State politicians and leaders for successfully passing these policies and being proactive about that. And next up, we have even more impacts at the statewide level and regional level. So we have a regional transportation plan to reduce the vehicle miles traveled, our VMT. And so with that, we have things like biking, encouraging the use of public transportation, whether it be buses or light rail. The Clean Energy Transformation Act is the phasing out of all usage of non-green energy. And that means that essentially 100% of our energy will be coming from green sources, whether that is hydropower, whether that be solar power, whatever that looks like, it's going to be from clean energy by 2045. And then the last one is the Climate Commitment Act, and it's a cap on pollution, and funding is going to be reinvested in clean energy and communities in need. So we can knock those all straight out of the wedge analysis, and we can see we're getting pretty close to our goal. So if we get this down, we just have a slight gap with sector-specific plans and commitments, and that's pretty close. But we want to make sure that we are keeping those industries, in particularly, accountable to do their part in reducing those emissions, so we can get down to our red line baseline. And next up, we'll transition to our finale. Oh, and so back in 2025, we are actually making a real change here in the Issaquah School District. This year, we passed a comprehensive district sustainability policy for cleaner energy, better waste systems, and smarter transportation, and a commitment ultimately to a greener future across all schools. Our student team of Sustainability Ambassadors played a key role in making that happen. But passing policy at the school district level is just the beginning. We need action, projects, and student engagement. I've tried to do this in my role as ASB president at Issaquah High School, but we need the future generation to continue stepping up. And that's why I'm excited to introduce Addie, who's a freshman ASB leader, who's already stepping up to carry this momentum forward, as well as Kylie, a fellow senior.
Now, in 2050, ASB, the Associated Student Body, is no longer just homecoming, monthly posters, assemblies, and hundreds of events. ASB leadership classes across our county have come together to change the trajectory of our bioregion and, by example, the world. When it seemed nearly impossible to change past generations' destructive actions, students were the ones who took action and curbed climate change.
The city hears the student government. Their new goals put the city's climate action plan into motion, reducing waste via school v. school competitions, watching our carbon count fall as Ditch the Drive becomes a habit instead of a monthly activity. These leaders in student government speak out past the school and into their cities because they know that more work can be done. Schools play a critical role in influencing the city's actions, and student government harnesses that platform to move forward in preserving the earth. Each student started with their district. The district patiently listens to these school leaders and commits themselves to action. District-wide engagement is where our mark is made. The district prioritizes these student goals and echoes these concerns on a greater platform to the city. The student's voice, which was once small, continues to be amplified through policy systems, and change is made. Change continues to be made. The student government stepped up to the plate and knew they needed to wield their power. The student government voice rings through the now cleaner, greener city.
Student government is no longer just a small group of leaders. It is a movement that has reduced our carbon count, a movement that has reduced our waste, a movement that has changed the way our communities think. As the world changed, so did student government.
To celebrate the revolution from the very first Earth Day in 1970 to 2050, when every day is Earth Day, we are inspired by spoken word. The following spoken word piece was inspired by The Revolution Will Not Be Televised, which is an iconic record from 1971 by Gil Scott-Heron. It was a critique of media and the reality of changes in America spurred by the civil rights movement. It was urging to people to actively participate in change instead of passively viewing. Brother, sister, father, mother, the revolution will be televised. The revolution will be all over social media. We are the media, the message, the messengers. This is our century. In 2050, we see the fruits of our revolutionary intention, breaking dinosaur-fueled conventions, our inventions, bringing the resurrection of nature, nurture, teacher, will be green.
You will drink from a cup of compostable plastic. You will walk out to a garden grown from once cracked concrete. You will be able to plug in, power up, and flip the switch without poisoning the world that you and I live in. And everyone will shout for sustainability because the revolution will be televised.
The revolution will be composted and brought to you locally sourced. It will be carbon-free and community-owned. The revolution will not show you pictures of oil spills and wildfires. You and I will lead a sea of change, wild oceans and forests nurtured once again. The revolution will be televised.
The revolution, we realize that we have a limited supply, water, our most precious resource, water, that which fills our oceans and rivers, water, and sustains all life as we know it, water. We ensured those who would run their faucets for minutes at a time, run washing machines, half loads, water their sidewalks, will practice water conservation first. Everybody practiced. We designed every building to be net zero water. We collect the rain, we store the rain, we use the rain, showers, sinks, toilets, drains. We use our rain budget to be net zero water free because the revolution will be televised.
The revolution will not be brought to you by big corporations. It will not feature fracking firms and people polluting our planet. The revolution will grow your food. The revolution will clean our water. The revolution will cool your cities and warm your homes with heat pumps, not gas furnaces. No more dinosaur fuel. No more dinosaur politics. No more dinosaur thinking.
Brother, sister, father, mother, the revolution will be televised. The revolution will be all over social media. We are the media, the message, the messengers. This is our century. In 2050, we see the fruits of our revolutionary intention, breaking dinosaur field convention, our inventions bringing the resurrection of nature, nurture, teacher, leader. Make it clean. The revolution will be green.
There will be pictures of blooming fruits, flowers, flowing rivers, pushing change down the line for future generations. Commentators on TV will predict the weather based on science, data, facts, and trust. Sunny, zero chance of extreme, unpredictable disasters. The revolution will be televised.
Food waste prevention, wildlife protection, clean water conservation, clean air preservation will be real, relevant, rigorous, righteous. It will not matter if we are unrelated by blood in the common fight for nature, because people like us will be in the streets, riding our bikes on bike pathways that connect everywhere to everything. Riding our bikes to jump on the bus, electric buses, electric bikes, everywhere to everything. Bikes to buses to light rail, everywhere to everything. The revolution will be a bike shop. Handlebars, perfect tire pressure, smooth, fast, convenient commuting, everywhere to everything. The revolution will be televised.
There will be pictures of kids picking strawberries in greenhouses and rivers running clean for the first time in 80 years. There will be moments of turtles hatching on beaches once buried in plastic. The theme song will be sung by all of us, by people, animals, and plants alike. The revolution will be televised. The revolution will be brought to you by bus routes and bike lanes, by homes humming with solar power, by electric cars on quiet streets. The revolution is growing. It's in the seeds, the streams, the soil. The revolution is a network of roots under our boots.
Brother, sister, father, mother, the revolution will be televised. The revolution will be all over social media. We are the media, the message, the messengers. This is our century. In 2050, we see the fruits of our revolutionary intention, breaking dinosaur-fueled conventions, our inventions bringing the resurrection of nature, nurture, teacher, leader. Make it clean. The revolution will be televised. The revolution will be planted. The revolution will be harvested. The revolution will be sustained. The revolution will be green.
Wow, those are some really cool spoken words. What if it had some music to it? Something with a little attitude. Or maybe something a little happier. which of those soundtracks should underscore the revolution will be televised? See you all in the next 2050 update.